Hello to everyone. Tonight we spend some time in the past, moving slowly through the ordinary details of life in another time. This is not a story of great events, but of the steady routines and conditions that shaped everyday experience. Get ready and let the rhythm of history unfold at its own pace. This video explores what daily life was like for an ordinary infantry soldier during Napoleon's campaigns, focusing on the physical surroundings, routines, responsibilities, and quiet patterns that shaped each day on the march and in camp. The day typically starts before full daylight arrives. In those early moments, the world exists in shades of gray, and shapes only gradually become distinct. Soldiers and their gear emerge slowly from the pre-dawn dimness. Beneath their feet, the ground presents itself in various forms. Sometimes it's hard-packed earth, other times mud churned by previous passage. It might be frozen into rigid ruts, or reduced to loose dust, or studded with stones that have been pressed down by countless wagon wheels. Ahead and behind, the column extends far into the distance. Dark coats form a long line, broken by the glint of straps and metal fittings that begin to catch light as the sun climbs. Each soldier holds a specific position in this line, and that position rarely shifts without direct orders. The spacing must be managed carefully. Too close, and heels get stepped on when the pace changes. Too far, and the formation loses its cohesion. The road becomes a constant companion. Before anyone speaks, its surface already communicates what kind of day lies ahead. When deep grooves left by wagon wheels fill with rainwater, they turn into slick channels. During dry spells, the surface breaks down into a fine powder. This powder lifts with every step, then settles onto clothing, exposed skin, and hair. In regions where cold dominates, the ground hardens until each footfall produces a sharper, more pronounced sound. Wherever the road narrows, passing through villages or cutting between trees, the column has to compress. Packs scrape against doorways or catch on low-hanging branches. Sound behaves differently in these confined spaces, becoming more contained. Then the road opens up again when fields appear on both sides, and the acoustic quality shifts once more. No force shapes the physical experience more powerfully than weather. When the sky hangs low, it seems to press downward, and the air takes on a heavy, close quality. Rain doesn't announce itself as a distinct event. Instead, it settles in as a persistent condition. Cloth darkens and gains weight. Leather straps begin to swell and lose their flexibility. Fingers become less nimble when both wet and chilled. During hot weather, the air above the road appears almost motionless. Sunlight bounces off metal surfaces and pale dust, forcing the eyes to narrow. Sweat begins to dampen collars and the interior of hats. The soldier doesn't stop to contemplate weather in any reflective sense. It's simply experienced as added weight, as moisture, as glare, or as cold. One more thing to be carried along with pack and weapon. Smell forms an inescapable part of the environment. Wool, leather, and unwashed fabric retain odors accumulated over many days. When the column moves past livestock, the air picks up scents of dung and hay. Near streams, the smell transitions to wet vegetation and mud. If the march has continued for a long time without opportunity for washing, the combined presence of many unwashed bodies creates a steady background odor. Eventually, it's no longer registered as something distinct. It becomes part of the column itself, as fundamental as the rhythmic sound of boots striking ground. Silence is rarely part of the experience. The march generates a continuous pattern of sound. Soles produce thuds and scraping noises. Metal buckles create faint clinking. Leather under tension lets out creaks. Canteens tap lightly against hips. camps. Muskets shift position against shoulders, making a wooden knock that's softened by intervening cloth. When the road changes direction or the pace needs adjustment, murmurs travel through the line. Orders move from the front toward the rear in brief calls, then get repeated by voices stationed at intervals along the formation. Sometimes drums mark the cadence, though often the column maintains its rhythm through habit and collective understanding alone. When supply wagons come near, their wheels add a grinding undertone, particularly noticeable on stone surfaces. What the soldier can actually see remains quite limited. Most of the day involves watching another coat from behind, observing how a pack sways, keeping eyes on the stretch of road just ahead. Landscapes slide past on either side, but attention keeps returning to footing and proper spacing. Hills appear and then recede. Fields display crops at different stages of development. Villages emerge into view with their low rooflines and enclosed yards. Smoke from cooking fires drifts low when the air is still. Sometimes people position themselves at a distance, observing silently as the column passes through their area. Their presence gets noted briefly before being left behind. The equipment each soldier carries determines how space is perceived and navigated. The musket rests along one side, providing constant weight. The pack sits against the back, changing how balance works. Straps cross over chest and shoulders, dictating posture. During the march, these objects don't feel separate from the body. They control how the soldier turns, bends, or maintains stability on rough ground. When the road begins to slope, the effect of this equipment becomes more apparent. Moving downhill requires careful attention to avoid slipping under the load. Moving uphill shortens breath and slows the entire line, though forward motion maintains its measured pace regardless. When temporary halts occur, the surroundings change in small ways, but the sense of being part of a column never fully disappears. Some men step aside from the road, while others simply stand in place, shifting weight from one foot to the other. Unless the halt will be extended, packs often stay in place. The ground might be damp or dusty, or covered in grass that's been trampled flat. When sitting becomes necessary, it's done with care, often on the pack itself or on a folded cloak. During these pauses, the wider environment briefly comes into focus. Wind can be felt moving across open land. In warm seasons, insects navigate through tall grass. Birds call out from hedges or nearby trees. These details exist and can be noticed, yet the line of men and the anticipation of resumed movement remain the dominant reality. When the day's march concludes, encampments take shape. The ground selected for this purpose is rarely level or ideally sheltered. Fields get used, or edges of wooded areas, or open commons. The transition from moving column to stationary camp happens through actions that repeat themselves rather than any sudden transformation. Men distribute themselves according to their units. Fires start appearing as small points of smoke. Packs finally come off shoulders and settle onto the ground. Muskets get stacked in organized groups. The earth becomes a temporary surface for living, soon marked by footprints, scattered ash, and various pieces of gear. Camp has a visual character that stays low and horizontal. Cloaks, blankets, and equipment all lie close to ground level. When evening arrives, fires produce a steady glow, not particularly bright, but persistent. Smoke drifts sideways when the air happens to be still, then gradually thins as night deepens. Tents might be present in certain situations, but more often, shelter is restricted to whatever can be carried. The sky transforms into a wide ceiling overhead. Stars become visible when clouds break apart, or else darkness remains thick and complete when they don't. Inside camp, the soldier's immediate world becomes smaller. Instead of the extended line of the road, there's now a compact circle defined by companions, fire, and personal equipment. The texture of the ground gets felt through the thin barriers of cloth. Stones are pushed aside wherever that's possible. After sunset, dampness begins to rise, working its way into fabric and hair. The soundscape shifts away from marching rhythm toward low conversations, the crackling of burning wood, occasional calls from an officer or sentry. Beyond the reach of firelight, the shapes of other groups fade away into shadow. Even during rest, the presence of so many bodies continues to define the environment. Space gets shared in close proximity. Any movement has to be executed carefully to avoid stepping on equipment or disturbing others. Personal boundaries shrink to narrow dimensions, shaped entirely by necessity. Through repeated evenings spent in similar conditions, the soldier develops familiarity with the positions of nearby men and objects. These familiar outlines serve as guides when light is poor. The quality of light itself alters how surroundings feel as the day progresses. Morning light arrives cool and exposes mist hanging over low-lying ground. Midday light tends to flatten shapes and eliminate shadows. Evening light softens edges while casting longer shadows that stretch across the camp. Once full darkness settles in, the world contracts to just the circle of firelight and the few steps that lie beyond it. Objects outside this illuminated space lose their detail and become general, indistinct forms. When camp is established near water sources, those areas undergo specific changes. The ground around streams or wells becomes worn down and muddy from constant traffic. Reflections shift and move on the water's surface whenever containers are being filled. The sound of flowing water persists beneath other noises, steady and unchanging. These locations become brief centers of activity, then grow quiet again once darkness fully establishes itself. Through all of this, the soldier remains a component of a large, organized presence that stays perpetually in motion or in preparation for motion. The surroundings are never completely divorced from this collective body. Roads, fields, villages, and campsites are encountered as successive stages through which the column moves, leaving behind only temporary impressions. Each location brings its own particular textures, smells, and sounds, yet all of them get connected by the unbroken pattern of marching, halting, and settling that defines the physical reality of campaign life. The patterns of each day in active service tend to repeat themselves, though with minor variations that depend on orders, the nature of the terrain, and what season it happens to be. Waking doesn't happen at any comfortable hour. It arrives when light has only just started to distinguish objects from the surrounding darkness, and sometimes it comes even before that separation becomes visible. A call travels along the line where men have been resting, transmitted by voices that have learned to stay firm without becoming unnecessarily loud. Those who've been sleeping on the ground begin to stir, emerging slowly from their stillness. Blankets or cloaks, made damp by the night air, get folded or shaken once to dislodge loose dirt. At first movement, limbs feel stiff, particularly after cold nights when muscles have stayed contracted for hours. The body becomes the initial concern, though only in practical terms. Hands work to brush soil off sleeves and knees. Feet that have stayed enclosed in shoes through long hours the day before receive a quick check. When time permits, shoes are loosened and then retied to ease where pressure has built up. Cloth strips wrapped around the feet might need adjustment. Opportunity for washing rarely extends beyond splashing water on the face, and only when a source lies within easy reach of camp. In most cases, available moisture gets conserved for drinking and cooking purposes, leaving personal cleaning restricted to wiping away whatever grime is visible. Attention turns to equipment. Immediately after attending to the body, the musket gets lifted and examined in the dim half-light. Metal components are touched to detect any dampness left by dew or rain. A piece of cloth is pulled along the barrel and lock mechanism to remove moisture that could interfere with proper function. Powder, which is carried in individual cartridges, has to be kept dry, so the pouch receives a habitual check. Straps get pulled tight across shoulders and chest. The pack, which contains spare clothing, personal items, and whatever rations are available, is lifted and positioned into its customary place. This single action defines posture for everything that follows. Once the pack is secured, movement takes on a different quality, and the day's work has effectively begun even before the column takes shape. What food is available in the morning varies with supply and circumstances. When rations get distributed, they typically consist of bread that's been carried for multiple days. Its texture might be firm, or it might have hardened considerably, and it gets broken apart by hand or with a knife. If a fire from the previous evening still retains some embers, a piece might be warmed briefly. Occasionally, a small amount of cheese remains, or some dried meat, or leftover soup from the night before. More often than not, the first intake is modest and consumed quickly while standing or crouched near the gear. There's little in the way of ceremony. Eating serves as a function to ready the body for the hours of movement ahead. Assembly takes place through sound and through repetition. Units come together under the direction of non-commissioned officers who recognize every face and know every position. Men form up by companies and ranks, creating formations they've learned through repeated drill. The shift from scattered camp to ordered formation requires only minutes when the process has been practiced. Quiet conversations that took place around fires drop away as attention contracts to matters of alignment and readiness. The line becomes a structure once more, no longer just a gathering of individuals who are resting. The march begins at a pace that's been carefully measured. The speed is neither rushed nor leisurely, selected to cover long distances without breaking the formation apart. Steps start to fall into rhythm with those of nearby men. After the initial stretch of road, the body adjusts to this particular motion. Arms swing within whatever limits the equipment allows. The musket settles into a position that balances both weight and accessibility. Breathing finds a steady pattern that matches the pace being maintained. As hours go by, water emerges as a recurring concern. Canteens can only hold a limited quantity, and opportunities for refilling depend entirely on whether streams, wells, or ponds appear along the route. When the column comes to a halt near water, the movement toward that source happens in a manner that's ordered yet urgent. Containers are dipped with care to keep from stirring up mud. Water tastes different from one place to another, sometimes clear, sometimes carrying flavors of plants or soil. Once containers are filled, the canteen goes back to its position against the hip, and its weight provides reassurance against the prospect of thirst later on. Time is marked more clearly by the sun's movement than by any clock. As it climbs higher, shadows grow shorter, and warmth increases on the cloth of uniforms. The body generates its own heat underneath wool and gear. Sweat begins to form along the back and beneath straps, causing the shirt underneath to dampen. There's no pause granted for this discomfort. It simply becomes part of the day's constant sensations, similar to the pressure exerted by shoes or the pull created by the pack. When clouds move in to cover the sun, the change registers as either relief or chill, depending on what season it is. A longer halt often arrives around midday, though how long it lasts is never guaranteed. The command travels down the line, and men step away from the road. Packs are removed from shoulders with a familiar redistribution of weight. The sense of release felt in the back and shoulders is perceptible but not particularly dramatic. Sitting comes next, sometimes directly on the ground itself, sometimes using the pack. If any food remains, it's consumed now. Bread gets softened with water whenever that's possible. A small cooking pot might be positioned over a hastily built fire if fuel can be found nearby, and if time permits. Smoke climbs in thin lines, and the smell of heated grain or meat spreads briefly into the air before dispersing. These pauses get filled with small acts of maintenance. A button that's come loose receives attention with thread kept specifically for such purposes. A strap that's worn thin gets wrapped or knotted to postpone its eventual failure. The musket might be wiped down again, especially when weather has been damp. These tasks are performed with hands that have learned the motions without attracting particular notice. Every soldier understands that the state of his equipment affects more than just himself. It impacts the order of the entire group. Conversation happens but stays low in volume and practical in nature. Information gets shared about what lies ahead on the road, when the next halt might occur, or how a comrade is faring. Words don't get wasted, since both breath and energy need to be conserved. Laughter might break out, but it remains brief and contained. The general tone continues to be shaped by the knowledge that everyone will need to rise again when the signal arrives. When marching starts up again, the body registers the difference. Muscles that cooled down during the rest period have to warm back up under their load. Those first steps after a halt are frequently the most challenging, but rhythm eventually returns. The road keeps going, sometimes running straight for extended stretches, sometimes winding through villages or following along rivers. Bridges get crossed either in single file or in tight formation, and the sound of boots transforms when they strike wood or stone. As the afternoon continues to advance, the sense of distance traveled accumulates more in the body than in the mind. Shoulders feel the straps with increasing intensity. The soles of feet register every individual stone. Still, the line maintains itself. Discipline in movement has less to do with rigid control and more to do with habit that's been shared. Each man maintains pace because everyone around him does the same thing. When the stopping point for the day is reached, rest doesn't come immediately. Certain tasks follow the halt. Wood needs to be gathered from wherever it's available. Water has to be carried in. Cooking starts in small groups where men pool whatever they have. When supplies allow, a pot of soup gets made from grain, vegetables obtained from local sources, or small amounts of meat. The process follows a simple pattern. Water is brought to a boil. Ingredients are added in stages. Stirring continues with a stick or spoon that's carried for exactly this purpose. What results gets divided evenly, with each man receiving his portion in a mess tin. Once eating is finished, attention returns to the body in understated ways. Shoes might be taken off briefly to allow feet to dry, though this gets done carefully to prevent swelling that would make them difficult to put back on. Cloth is aired out if the weather cooperates. Minor cuts or blisters receive examination and get wrapped with strips of fabric. These actions don't get treated as special care. They're simply routine steps that make it possible for the next day to proceed. Arrangements for sleep stay basic. A cloak or blanket is laid out on the ground. The pack might serve as support for the head. Position is selected with awareness of who's nearby, leaving narrow passages between different groups. Weapons stay within easy reach. Before lying down, straps and belts are loosened somewhat, but not taken off entirely, since readiness is always anticipated. The body lowers itself to the ground with deliberate movement, working to preserve warmth. As darkness grows deeper, the soundscape changes. The murmur of voices fades away. Pieces of firewood collapse inward as flames diminish. Some men take their turns on guard duty, rising from rest to stand at their assigned positions. Their presence keeps the structure of the camp intact throughout the night. Those who are off duty stay still, breathing slowly, recovering whatever strength they'll need for the march that comes next. This pattern of waking, preparing, moving, halting, maintaining, and resting repeats itself across numerous days of campaign. Differences emerge from variations in terrain, weather conditions, and supply availability, but the underlying structure remains constant. Life becomes narrowed to these cycles. The larger objectives of the army under leaders such as Napoleon stay as distant concepts when compared to the immediate sequence of tasks that occupy each hour. Routine provides a sense of continuity even though conditions shift constantly from one place to another. Through repetition, these actions begin to require less conscious thought, allowing the soldier to progress through long days with effort that stays steady and measured. Difficulties during active service don't present themselves as isolated dramatic moments. They persist as ongoing conditions that stay present throughout every phase of the day. Among these, fatigue stands as the most unrelenting. It accumulates in stages, not merely from a single extended march, but from numerous days stacked one upon another, with insufficient opportunity for complete rest. The body brings yesterday's exertion forward into today. By morning, muscles feel heavier than they once felt. Joints continue to move, but they lack the ease that was familiar in civilian life. This condition becomes the new normal, and the soldier develops an understanding of how to measure energy with care, steering clear of any motion that isn't necessary. The feet emerge as a primary site of strain. Shoes, frequently worn for extended periods without being replaced, become rigid and mold themselves to conform to the foot. Seams create friction in identical locations every day. When moisture gets in, it softens the skin, and the resulting friction produces blisters that can break open and then reopen repeatedly. Cloth wrappings provide a degree of protection, but they tend to shift as movement continues. Every individual step transmits a small signal upward through the body, and across thousands of steps, these signals build into a persistent ache. The column doesn't make adjustments for individual discomfort. The pace gets set by command, and each man works to match it as closely as his condition allows. The weight being carried intensifies this pressure. The musket, cartridge box, pack, blanket, spare clothing, and whatever personal items are kept, all of these together create a burden that never truly leaves the shoulders, except when halts occur. Even during those moments, the relief proves temporary. Straps create pressure along the same pathways across collarbones and chest. After hours have passed, these contact points become tender. The back develops a slight forward lean to counterbalance the load, and this altered posture becomes established through repeated habit. When the road begins to climb upward, breathing grows deeper and conversation drops away almost completely. The sound of exertion becomes audible only as intensified breathing and the shuffling rhythm of boots. Weather has the power to transform ordinary strain into something more severe. Rain saturates cloth and increases the weight of every layer. Wet wool clings to the body and cools the skin beneath it. Hands shed their warmth and lose precision in movement. Tasks like loading a musket or securing straps require more time when fingers have become stiff. Under cold conditions, the body works to conserve heat by contracting muscles, which in turn amplifies fatigue. During hot weather, the loss of water through sweat diminishes overall strength. Thirst develops into a persistent awareness, controlled through small, carefully measured sips from the canteen. When sources of water lie at a distance, rationing starts without anyone needing to state it explicitly. Illness travels quietly through groups of men who occupy shared space in close quarters. Coughs make their appearance and refuse to leave. Some men develop fevers, which force them to continue marching with diminished strength or to drop behind the formation. Troubles with the stomach can follow after drinking unfamiliar water or consuming food that's gone bad. Little separation exists between those who are healthy and those who are unwell, unless a man reaches the point where he can no longer remain standing. Those who stay in line do so because the movement of the column doesn't stop. Whatever care comes from comrades takes practical forms: the sharing of a food portion, assistance with adjusting a pack, or the offering of a steadying hand when ground becomes uneven. The uncertainty surrounding supply creates another form of steady pressure. Rations don't always materialize in the quantities that were anticipated. Bread deliveries might be delayed. Meat can become scarce. When food becomes reduced, portions shrink without any need for discussion. Hunger manifests as a dull sense of emptiness rather than as sharp pain. It causes movement to slow somewhat and makes patience run shorter, but the routine of marching persists regardless. Sometimes foraging serves to supplement what gets distributed officially, with modest quantities of vegetables or grain obtained from the surrounding countryside. These supplemental sources depend on where the column happens to be and whether permission has been granted, and they change from one day to the next. Discipline determines how these difficulties get carried. Orders control the pace, the direction taken, and what behavior is acceptable in camp. Non-commissioned officers move up and down the line, keeping watch over spacing and posture. When corrections become necessary, they're delivered in words that are short and direct. The presence of authority maintains itself constantly, not through dramatic demonstrations, but through the sustained expectation that every man will hold his assigned position. This structure prevents confusion from taking hold, but it introduces its own form of pressure, since personal choice becomes restricted. Decisions about when to stop, how quickly to move, or where to take rest don't belong to the individual soldier. Not knowing what movement lies ahead introduces yet another layer of difficulty. The column might alter its direction with minimal warning. A march that was expected to be short can stretch on throughout the entire day. A halt that seemed likely to continue until morning might be cut short at midnight. This lack of predictability influences how energy gets managed. Men avoid expending strength without restraint, keeping effort in reserve for whatever demands might be unknown. When sleep becomes available, it's taken as completely as circumstances allow, since the timing of the next opportunity remains uncertain. The physical environment itself generates obstacles. Roads deteriorate into mud that grips at shoes and reduces the speed of the line. Bridges create narrow passages that compress the formation. Hills extend the length of the march. Forest paths conceal roots and stones that can catch an unsuspecting foot. Rivers demand careful crossing, sometimes requiring boots to be removed and trousers to be rolled up, leaving skin exposed to frigid water. Each of these conditions adds both time and effort without altering the fundamental task of advancing forward as a collective body. While noise and smoke from previous engagements might persist in memory, during routine marching, the more pressing concern involves being ready for abrupt change. Muskets need to remain within easy reach. Powder has to stay dry. Even when fatigue weighs heavily, attention keeps returning to how the weapon feels resting against the shoulder. This state of constant readiness, maintained without any visible signs of tension, creates a form of background strain that never completely vanishes. Night doesn't eliminate difficulty. It simply transforms how difficulty manifests. Cold becomes more intense once the sun has disappeared. Damp ground draws warmth away from the body. Sleep might remain shallow, broken by the need to shift position, adjust a blanket, or stand up for an assigned duty. Those given guard assignments remain upright for designated periods, watching shapes in the darkness and listening for sounds that seem out of place. Stillness during these nighttime hours can feel more prolonged than movement during daylight, since the body stays vertical without the distraction provided by marching rhythm. In spite of these various pressures, the column maintains its function because every man adjusts himself to the level of strain that surrounds him. Complaints emerge rarely and stay brief, not because discomfort is missing, but because it gets shared and remains constant. Effort distributes itself evenly throughout the formation. When one man loses his footing, another moves to steady him. When a strap gives way, someone positioned nearby offers cord or cloth as replacement. These minor actions work to reduce the consequences of larger hardships. With time, the body makes adjustments to this mode of existence. Movements become more economical in nature. Steps grow slightly shorter as a way to preserve strength. Hands develop the ability to complete tasks while wasting minimal motion. The mind contracts its focus to concentrate on the next halt, the next meal, the next location where lying down becomes possible. Larger outcomes and plans that exist at a distance stay outside the realm of daily thought. The experience of service transforms into a sequence of segments that can be managed, with each one completed in its turn. These persistent difficulties don't generate constant alarm. Instead, they establish a steady background of effort that comes to define what existence means on campaign. The soldier operates within this field of strain as though it were part of the environment itself, shaped by these forces and continuing through them with endurance that's both measured and practiced. The social structure that surrounds an infantry soldier during campaign gets defined initially by rank, but it's encountered on a daily basis through smaller, recurring associations. The army organizes itself into distinct layers of authority, yet the majority of interaction takes place within a limited circle of faces that have become familiar. A man holds membership in a company, and within that company he belongs to a mess group consisting of several others who share cooking duties, rest together, and handle small necessities as a unit. This smaller formation influences daily life more immediately than any distant command structure ever could. Officers represent visible focal points of direction. Their clothing, the way they carry themselves, and their position either on horseback or at the head of assembled groups make their role unmistakable. Orders originate with them and travel through non-commissioned officers, whose presence stays closer and more continuous. Sergeants and corporals walk the length of the line, make adjustments to spacing, distribute tasks, and verify that instructions have been properly understood. Their voices become known, and their individual habits grow familiar over time. Authority doesn't exist as some abstract concept. It gets recognized in how a man stands, how he speaks, and how he receives obedience without any delay. For the ordinary soldier, this arrangement delivers predictability. Every person understands who issues orders, who receives them, and precisely where he fits within the structure. Little confusion exists regarding responsibility. When a fire needs to be built, a guard post requires filling, or a formation needs adjustment, direction arrives quickly through channels that have been well established. This works to reduce disorder in circumstances where many men are moving and living in close proximity. At the same time, it places limits on personal choice. Actions get guided by assigned role rather than by individual preference. Within the company itself, relationships take shape through shared routine rather than through any deliberate selection process. Men who stand beside each other in formation frequently sleep in adjacent positions at night and divide cooking tasks among themselves. As time passes, individual habits become known to others. One man might respond quickly to the morning call, while another rises more gradually. One maintains his equipment in strict order, while another requires occasional reminders. These variations get observed without generating much commentary. Adjustment takes place quietly. A man who's careful with details might help a slower companion inspect straps before the march begins. Another might offer a portion of his food when rations have been distributed unevenly. The way people speak within these groups follows recognizable patterns. Formal language gets employed when addressing those of higher rank, but among equals, the tone becomes direct and practical in nature. Jokes make occasional appearances, typically concerning minor daily inconveniences rather than weightier subjects. Humor stays brief and functions mainly to relieve monotony. Extended discussions rarely occur during active movement, since both breath and attention are otherwise occupied. In camp, conversation might stretch on somewhat longer, though it still maintains a low volume, influenced by the general need for rest. Age and previous experience create subtle distinctions, even within the same rank. Veterans who've participated in earlier campaigns move with greater efficiency. They've learned how to position a blanket to keep dampness from the ground at bay, how to pack items so they won't create friction, how to estimate the distance of a march by observing where the sun sits in the sky. Soldiers who are newer to this life watch these habits and begin to adopt them. Instruction frequently happens without any formal teaching, simply through observation and imitation. This quiet transfer of practical knowledge forms a significant component of the social environment. Trust builds itself through effort that's been repeatedly shared. When men walk the same roads, bear the same weight, and sleep under identical conditions, they develop a reliance on one another in modest ways. One man might request that a neighbor keep watch over his position in line while he adjusts a shoe during a brief halt. Another might relay news that he heard from someone positioned toward the front of the column. These exchanges remain simple, yet they create a network of mutual awareness. The well-being of each person has an impact on those positioned nearby, since any single absence from the formation creates a gap that must be filled. Differences in origin certainly exist, as soldiers arrive from various regions, each bringing distinct accents or customs with them. These differences get noticed but frequently become softened by the routine that everyone shares. Common tasks and conditions work to diminish the significance of distinctions that existed before. Clothing that was once worn in civilian life gets replaced by uniform elements that cause individuals to appear more alike. Identity undergoes a shift toward the regiment and company, which transform into the primary points of reference in daily interaction. Officers, despite being separated by rank, don't function as entirely distant figures. Some become known for specific habits, strict inspection of equipment perhaps, or particular attention to how rations are managed. Their presence during marches and within camp makes them part of the observable environment. Respect gets demonstrated through posture and through choice of language, but a limited degree of familiarity can develop, especially with non-commissioned officers who work in close contact with the men. Still, boundaries stay clearly defined. Decisions concerning movement, discipline, and assigned duty flow in a downward direction, not upward. Discipline itself operates as a social force. Expectations about proper behavior receive reinforcement not only from authority figures, but from the group as a whole. When a man neglects his equipment or loses the rhythm of his step, it creates effects for those positioned around him. Corrections might come initially from a comrade before they ever reach someone of higher rank. This influence exerted by peers maintains order through small, continuous actions. The objective isn't punishment, but rather keeping the group functioning in a smooth manner. Hardship that gets shared has the effect of strengthening these connections without requiring any spoken acknowledgement. When rain soaks through everyone's clothing, or when an extended march leaves every shoulder feeling sore, no one stands separate from that condition. This experience, held in common, reduces whatever distance might exist between individuals. At the same time, privacy remains quite limited. Personal space shrinks to very narrow dimensions, both during the march and within camp. Activities like changing clothes, resting, or addressing minor injuries happen within the sight of others. With time, this becomes a standard state of affairs and loses any quality of being remarkable. Religious practices and personal beliefs can vary considerably, but moments devoted to prayer or quiet reflection typically occur on an individual basis, at the edge of camp perhaps, or beside a fire. Others walk past without offering interruption. The group permits space for such activities provided they don't create interference with required duties. In this manner, individual inner life manages to coexist alongside collective routine. When letters from home manage to arrive, they move through this social network in various ways. A man who receives news might read it in silence or choose to share portions with companions he's close to. The act of writing letters requires assistance for those who have less practice with it, and a comrade might help construct the words or properly address a page. These exchanges work to deepen existing connections, creating links between the shared present and distant families and places left behind. Conflicts between individuals do arise, frequently over matters that are relatively small, how food gets distributed, for instance, or who has use of space near a fire. These disagreements usually remain brief in duration. The necessity of continuing to march together provides encouragement toward rapid resolution. Disputes that drag on would create disturbance in how the group functions and would eventually attract attention from those in positions of authority. As a consequence, most tensions end up settling into silence rather than developing into open division. The ceremonial aspects of military life, parades, formal formations, and similar occasions work to reinforce the feeling of belonging to something larger. Standing in orderly ranks, hearing commands transmitted clearly down the length of the line, and moving in coordinated fashion provide a visible demonstration of structure. Even when the broader objectives of the army, pursued under figures such as Napoleon, remain at a considerable distance from daily thought, these moments serve to remind each soldier of the place he occupies within a vast, organized body. At night within camp, the social world draws inward to become the small circle of the mess group. Food undergoes division. Stories from earlier days might be told again in hushed voices, and tools or articles of clothing are shared among those who need them. The light from the fire softens facial features and diminishes distinctions of rank within this confined space, though formal respect continues to be maintained. When sleep finally comes, bodies settle close to one another, creating a pattern on the ground that mirrors the day's formation in a shape that's been loosened somewhat. Through all of these layers, rank, company, mess group, and the individual himself, the soldier inhabits a social environment that's simultaneously structured and intimate. It gets constructed from repetition, from labor that's shared, and from proximity that never stops. Authority supplies order from positions above, while cooperation on a daily basis sustains life from within the group itself. What results is a community that's been shaped less by choice than by circumstance, steady in the patterns it follows, and adapted to the continuous movement that defines campaign life. Work within the army reaches beyond the activities of marching and fighting. A substantial portion of a soldier's time gets occupied with practical tasks, that keep the column functioning and maintain the temporary communities that take shape each day. These responsibilities follow patterns determined by necessity, by the nature of the terrain, and by whatever orders have been issued, and they get performed with consistent attention rather than with any sense of urgency. Drill continues to form a foundation of military work, even while on campaign. When circumstances permit, units gather in open ground to rehearse formations and movements. The intent isn't to create a display, but to ensure coordination. Men position themselves shoulder to shoulder, making small adjustments to maintain proper intervals. Commands get delivered in tones that are clear and measured. Muskets are raised to position, then lowered, rotated, and brought to the shoulder in synchronized fashion. These motions, repeated many times, work to strengthen habits that must remain intact even when exhaustion sets in. Drill also engages the mind in a structured manner, reinforcing the understanding that order persists despite the fact that surroundings keep changing. Caring for weapons constitutes a daily obligation. The musket, which gets exposed to dust, to moisture, and to constant handling, needs regular attention to stay reliable. After a march concludes, a soldier takes a seat with the weapon resting across his knees. A cloth gets drawn through the barrel using a rod which removes accumulated residue. The lock mechanism receives a wipe and an inspection. Flints are examined for sharpness and get replaced when they've worn down. Since powder needs protection from dampness, cartridge boxes only get opened when necessary and are closed securely afterward. These tasks are executed methodically, frequently in silence, with each man concentrating on his own equipment while remaining aware that others nearby are doing the same thing. Setting up camp represents another routine responsibility. Once a stopping place has been reached, the area undergoes rapid organization. Units take their positions in sections that have been assigned to preserve order. Fires are positioned with deliberation, spaced apart to minimize the risk of flames spreading. Fuel has to be collected, which involves walking modest distances to gather branches that have fallen or to cut small pieces of wood where permission has been granted. The activity of carrying wood back to camp, arms loaded and boots pressing into soft ground, becomes as regular as marching itself. Ground gets cleared of sharp stones or debris in locations where men plan to lie down. Cloaks and blankets are laid out in lines that echo the organization of the unit. Guard duty creates interruptions in rest, but gets accepted as part of the system that maintains security for the group. Posts are distributed along the perimeter of camp, near roads, or at points where approach might occur. A soldier standing guard holds his musket ready while watching the dark shapes that exist beyond where firelight reaches. Movement is restricted to brief pacing that helps maintain warmth. Attention stays directed outward, listening for sounds that seem unusual among the ordinary noises of night. Once a designated period has passed, relief arrives, and the man goes back to rest while someone else assumes his position. This rotation ensures that watchfulness continues without completely exhausting any single person. Tasks related to foraging and supply emerge when official provisions prove insufficient or when orders provide permission for supplementation. Small groups might be dispatched to nearby farms or fields to secure grain, vegetables, or fodder. These assignments get carried out under specific instruction, with emphasis placed on speed and on returning promptly. Whatever items are gathered get brought back to camp and incorporated into communal cooking. Such work requires awareness of the surrounding area and careful handling of whatever goods are obtained. It falls somewhere between leisurely and chaotic, simply another extension of the day's labor. Road work occasionally becomes necessary to allow the column and its wagons to move through. Soldiers might receive orders to fill deep ruts with branches, to level soft sections with stones, or to clear obstacles like trees that have fallen across the path. Tools remain simple in nature: shovels, axes, or just hands alone. These efforts create delays in the march, but serve to prevent even greater delays later on. The physical strain resembles what's experienced during marching, with the addition of lifting and bending motions. Once the path has been improved sufficiently for passage, tools are gathered up and the line reforms itself. The handling of baggage forms a constant activity that operates in the background. Wagons transport supplies, ammunition, and equipment that individuals don't carry on their persons. When terrain becomes challenging, men can be summoned to push wheels out of mud, to lift loads, or to help steady animals. These tasks bring soldiers into direct contact with the logistical dimension of the army. Success in movement depends not only on those who carry muskets, but also on keeping these mobile stores in operation. After providing assistance, men return to their positions in the formation, their hands bearing marks of mud or fibers from rope. Readiness functions as an ongoing expectation that influences all forms of work. Even during activities like cooking or maintenance, equipment stays within easy reach. Belts don't get removed entirely. Muskets are stacked in nearby locations rather than being set completely aside. This stance of partial preparedness doesn't create a feeling of tension. It's simply habitual. The day can transition quickly from routine labor to organized movement, and that transition needs to happen smoothly. Consequently, tasks are approached with an eye toward rapid completion and toward making it easy to reassemble gear. Managing fires represents another small but recurring duty. Flames need to be controlled to conserve fuel and to reduce smoke that might give away position. Cooking fires receive careful feeding, then are permitted to burn down. Before people settle in for sleep, embers are either spread out or covered according to instructions. In wet conditions, keeping a fire alive demands patience, with dry kindling kept protected beneath cloth. Knowledge about how to build and maintain a fire circulates among the men, passed along through observation rather than through any formal teaching process. The cleaning of clothing, though constrained by available water and time, is attempted whenever circumstances make it possible. A shirt might get rinsed in a stream and wrung out, then suspended briefly to dry before being worn once more. This is accomplished without removing oneself far from the group. The action stays quick and functional, aimed at preventing stiffness and discomfort rather than at achieving complete cleanliness. Such modest efforts help preserve the body's capacity to continue working day after day. Tasks involving communication also fall within the realm of work. Messages travel from one section of the unit to another, transported by individuals who've been designated for the purpose. A soldier might be sent to summon a group to formation or to deliver instructions regarding movement. These short trips through camp or along the column provide brief variations in pace but remain purposeful in nature. Accuracy in repeating words matters, and men selected for such tasks are those recognized for being attentive. Time that falls between larger duties gets filled with minor repairs and with preparation. A button is sewn back onto a coat. A seam in a pack that has torn receives stitching. A piece of cord is braided to serve as replacement for one that has frayed. These actions reduce the likelihood of equipment failing during movement. They are completed with whatever materials happen to be available, often by firelight during evening hours. All of these responsibilities combine to form a network of work that supports the visible structure of the army. Marching is merely the most conspicuous element. Underneath it exists a continuous layer of maintenance, preparation, and labor conducted on a small scale. Each soldier makes his contribution through these repeated tasks, ensuring that the group can move, rest, and then move again without experiencing interruption. The rhythm of work rarely undergoes sharp changes. Tasks follow one another in a steady succession, shaped by available daylight and by orders received. Even when the army under leaders such as Napoleon carries out large-scale movements across entire regions, the individual soldier's day remains composed of these modest, necessary actions. Through them, the enormous structure of the campaign gets sustained by countless small efforts that are carried out quietly and without any pause. Cultural habits within the army emerge from repetition, from conditions that get shared, and from the process of blending men who originate from different regions into a single functioning body. These habits don't receive formal instruction, yet they direct daily behavior with the same clarity as written orders might. As time passes, they establish a sense of what gets considered normal inside camp and during the march, influencing how soldiers speak to one another, how they rest, how they exchange goods, and how they occupy the limited free moments that fall between assigned duties. Patterns of speech stand out as among the most observable features of this environment. Voices generally stay low, which conserves energy and shows respect for the confined quarters of camp. Shouting gets associated with commands, with alarms, or with genuine necessity, and otherwise it's avoided. Among those of equal rank, language becomes direct and practical in character. Requests are kept short and are often implied rather than being fully articulated. A gesture made toward a cooking pot or a cup held out might serve in place of words. Accents from different provinces remain detectable, yet repeated contact works to smooth out some of the differences. Words that get used within the regiment acquire shared meanings that connect to routines, to equipment, and to specific tasks, forming a modest vocabulary that's particular to military life. Humor has a presence but rarely takes over conversation. It surfaces in brief remarks concerning the day's minor discomforts, the weight of a pack, the quality of bread that's been issued, or what condition the road happens to be in. These comments don't aim to provoke loud laughter. Instead, they serve to acknowledge shared experience in a manner that makes it feel slightly lighter. The tone maintains its restraint. Jokes often get repeated across multiple days, becoming familiar phrases that need little in the way of explanation. This repetition establishes a sense of continuity, creating connections between one march and the next. Gambling represents a common way to occupy idle moments when both time and light make it possible. Dice, small cards, or simple games that use marked stones make their appearance near fires during evening hours. Whatever gets wagered tends to be modest, perhaps a portion of tobacco, a bit of food, or a small coin. The activity remains quiet and concentrated. Players position themselves in a close crouch, providing shelter for the game against wind and against unwanted attention. Observers stand or sit at a short distance, watching without offering interference. Disputes about outcomes are uncommon and typically get resolved quickly, since the group places value on maintaining calm rather than prolonging disagreement. Singing takes place in certain moods, particularly after the evening meal, when duties have grown lighter and darkness has established itself. Songs don't get performed with forceful projection, but rather in a measured, even tone that works to blend voices instead of separating them. Many songs follow melodies that are familiar with verses that most men know. The subjects might include places of origin, earlier campaigns, or simple rhythmic lines that match the pace used during marching. The act of singing together helps regulate breathing and creates a tempo that's shared, similar to the rhythm produced by footsteps on the road. Small trades form another component of daily norms. A soldier who finds himself with extra thread might exchange it for a portion of food. Someone else might trade a service, mending a torn seam, for instance. in return for assistance with gathering firewood. These exchanges operate informally but remain understood by all. Value gets measured less by strict equivalence and more by usefulness. Trust plays a significant role, as men who engage in regular sharing are more likely to provide assistance to one another when future needs arise. Over time, certain individuals become recognized for particular skills, repairing shoes perhaps, or sharpening tools, or preparing food with efficiency. Letters establish connections between the camp and distant homes and represent an important cultural practice. When paper and time happen to be available, men position themselves near a fire or in daylight and write at a slow pace, often with assistance from someone who has more practice in forming words. The tone found in these letters tends toward being steady and factual, describing health, describing location in general terms, and noting the continuation of service. When letters arrive from home, they're read with considerable care. Some men choose to read privately, while others share portions with companions they're close to. The presence of a letter alters a man's posture for a period of time, drawing his attention inward before he returns to the routine that's shared. When pay gets distributed, how it's handled follows habits that have been established. Coins receive careful counting, often in small groups, where one man helps another confirm the amount. A portion might be set aside with the intention of sending it home when circumstances allow. Another part might be used right away for small purchases from camp followers or local sellers when such trade has been permitted. Spending generally remains cautious, since what the future will require stays uncertain. Money itself becomes a topic of shared interest briefly, then recedes as necessities of daily life take precedence once more. Customs related to food carry social meaning that extends beyond simple nourishment. Cooking typically happens in mess groups consisting of several men who pool their rations together. Decisions about what to cook and how to divide portions are reached through quiet agreement. The one who has more experience working at the fire often takes the lead in the process, making adjustments to water and ingredients by sight rather than by any kind of measure. Sharing the meal signals that the day's labor has come to a close. Eating takes place close to the ground, with bodies positioned in a loose circular arrangement. Conversation during meals moves more slowly, as attention comes to rest partly on the warmth and taste of food after hours spent in exertion. The use of tobacco is widespread and follows its own set of routines. Pipes get filled and lit from embers, then passed from hand to hand when supply runs low. The act of smoking provides a pause, a moment when breathing slows down and the body finds a more settled state. Smoke drifts in upward and sideways directions, mixing with the general scent produced by campfires. Silence frequently accompanies these moments, though not as a form of isolation, but rather as a quiet that's shared. Standards for personal appearance follow practical norms that have been shaped by limited resources. Uniforms lose their color and show wear, receiving patches in places where cloth has thinned down. Cleanliness remains relative to whatever conditions exist. A man who wipes his face and hands when water is available gets considered attentive. Hair is kept short enough to manage without difficulty. Beards might grow when shaving proves difficult, then receive trimming when an opportunity presents itself. No one holds expectations of polished presentation. The standard is functionality and readiness. Gestures of assistance form part of what's expected in behavior. Helping another man lift a heavy pot, adjust a pack, or carry water doesn't require formal thanks every time it occurs. Such acts are understood as part of the mutual support that's necessary for the group's continued endurance. Gratitude might be shown at a later time through a favor that gets returned rather than through words. This quiet exchange of effort works to reinforce bonds without attracting attention. Evening routines display consistent patterns. After food has been consumed and small tasks completed, men settle near whatever places they've chosen for resting. Some continue with quiet conversation, while others turn their focus to repairs or to writing. As darkness increases, activity diminishes in stages rather than stopping all at once. Fires are brought down to embers. Tools are put away in spots that have become familiar. The gradual reduction of movement signals that sleep is approaching without any formal announcement being made. Morning habits mirror those of evening, but in reverse order. Men rise in a sequence that gets shaped by the call to assemble. Some move immediately to pack their gear, while others stretch briefly before standing up. There's little in the way of lingering. The cultural expectation places value on readiness over comfort. Those who delay receive reminders from companions or from superiors, which maintains the overall timing of the group. Respect for space that's shared governs behavior in conditions that are crowded. Equipment is kept close and gets arranged to avoid blocking paths. When stepping over another's belongings becomes necessary, it's done with care. Loud disputes receive discouragement, not through any strict rule, but through the collective preference for maintaining calm. The soundscape of camp reflects this norm, remaining composed of low voices, of movements that are controlled, and of the steady background provided by fire and wind. Religious observance fits quietly within these patterns. A man might make the sign of the cross, bow his head briefly, or whisper a prayer before settling in for sleep. Others positioned nearby continue with their tasks without interruption. These actions are neither highlighted nor hidden. They form part of the ordinary rhythm, accepted alongside other small habits that are personal in nature. As time progresses, these cultural practices create a stable framework that persists despite constant changes in location. Fields, roads, and villages vary from one place to another, but the manner in which men cook, speak, trade, rest, and assist one another remains largely the same. This continuity delivers a sense of familiarity in an environment that gets defined by movement. Each habit, small when considered on its own, contributes to a shared way of living that supports both endurance and order without requiring constant direction. Within this framework, individual identity undergoes adjustment to match the collective pace. Personal preferences give way to norms established by the group. Actions that align with these norms pass by without notice, while those that create disruption receive gentle correction. What results is a culture that's been shaped by necessity, by repetition, and by proximity, steady in tone and measured in how it gets expressed. It allows daily life to proceed with minimal friction, even under the ongoing demands that campaign imposes. Beliefs and mindset within the ranks develop less from formal instruction and more from experience that repeats itself, shaped by movement, by hardship, and by routine that gets shared. A soldier's understanding of the world undergoes a simultaneous narrowing and deepening. Broad political ideas or plans that exist at a distance rarely take up space in daily thought. Instead, meaning accumulates around structures that are immediate. The regiment, the company, the mess group, and the steady sequence of duties that give definition to each day. Within this framework, ideas concerning duty, endurance, fate, and order assume practical forms. Duty doesn't get discussed as an abstract virtue during ordinary conversation. It finds expression through action that aligns with what's expected, rising when the call comes, keeping one's place in the line, maintaining equipment properly, and standing guard when the assignment arrives. All of these represent the practical shape that obligation takes. These acts get repeated with such frequency that they become incorporated into personal identity. A man who performs them with reliability gets considered steady. One who fails in them draws notice peace not through moral judgment, but through whatever disruption he causes to the group's rhythm. In this manner, duty is experienced as participation in something that functions as a whole. Loyalty tends to attach itself first to those who are nearest. Companions who share food, fire, and the road become the primary point of reference. The regiment, with its number, its officers, and its history of previous marches, forms the circle that comes next. Symbols like flags or details found in the uniform represent this larger body, but the emotional weight resides in the familiar faces beside which one stands every day. Protecting the line, maintaining formation, and refusing to abandon one's position are the ways this loyalty demonstrates itself. It constitutes less a matter of spoken promise and more a matter of repeated physical presence. Ideas about authority follow similar practical pathways. Orders arrive through channels that are known and get carried out because the structure they maintain is necessary for both survival and movement. Respect for rank receives reinforcement from routine rather than from reflection. An officer's command gets obeyed because the system relies on action that's coordinated. As time passes, this repeated obedience works to shape a mindset in which direction from above becomes part of what feels like the natural order of life. Questioning decisions that operate at a broad level lies outside the daily scope of what concerns the ordinary soldier. Religion continues to serve as an important source of personal orientation, though how it gets expressed varies from one man to another. Many soldiers carry small objects of faith, a medal perhaps, or a cross, or a scrap of cloth that received blessing at home. These items are kept in a pocket or pouch and get touched briefly during moments of uncertainty or before sleep arrives. Prayer is frequently quiet and brief, woven into the day rather than being set apart in extended rituals. A sign made before eating or a phrase whispered before lying down serves as acknowledgement of forces that lie beyond immediate control. Faith provides a sense that events are unfolding within a larger pattern, even when that pattern can't be understood. Superstition exists alongside formal belief, shaped by how unpredictable campaign life proves to be. Certain habits acquire meaning through repetition. A man might always tie a strap following the same sequence or step forward with a specific foot when forming line. These actions don't attract attention, yet they offer a modest sense of influence in conditions that are largely governed by external factors. Stories make their way around about signs that were seen before earlier events occurred, told in low voices near fires. Such accounts don't get debated in detail. They simply become part of the background understanding that the world contains elements beyond clear explanation. Time receives different perception in this environment. Days get marked by marches and halts rather than by calendar dates. The past is recalled in terms of previous roads traveled, rivers that were crossed, or seasons that were endured on campaign. The future gets considered in shorter segments. The next rest period, the next ration, the next place where sleep will be possible. Outcomes that are long-term remain distant, partly because they lie beyond what the individual soldier can control. This focus on the near term helps maintain steadiness, since attention stays directed toward tasks that can actually be completed. Hardship influences mindset by establishing a baseline for what gets expected. Comfort doesn't get assumed. Dry clothing, a full meal, or a night that passes without interruption are experienced as favorable conditions rather than as normal ones. This adjustment of expectation works to reduce frustration. When difficulties arise, they get measured against what's already familiar. Complaints remain brief because conditions are shared and understood. Endurance becomes a quiet point of pride, demonstrated through continued participation rather than through open declaration. How the land through which the army moves gets perceived also shapes understanding. Villages, fields, forests, and rivers appear as stages in a passage that's ongoing. Local customs, languages, or clothing might differ, but for the soldier who's marching, these details pass along the edge of awareness. The world that exists beyond the column is observed, but not deeply engaged with, except when supplies or shelter depend on it. This creates a sense of being part of a body that's moving, one that passes through many regions without fully belonging to any of them during the campaign. The presence of danger, though not always immediate, forms part of the mental background. Weapons are carried on a daily basis, and readiness is maintained even during routine tasks. As time goes on, this condition becomes familiar rather than alarming. The possibility of sudden change is acknowledged through habit, keeping equipment close, sleeping while still clothed, listening for calls during the night. Fear, when it surfaces, is managed through focus on actions that are immediate: loading, forming line, following orders. The mind narrows to procedure, which leaves less space for thought that can't be controlled. Memory plays a role in shaping how things are viewed. Experiences from earlier marches, storms that were endured, shortages that were overcome, rivers that were crossed, serve as reference points that suggest current difficulties can also be passed through. These memories are shared in fragments during quiet conversation, reinforcing the idea that the group has already faced much and continued moving forward. The past thus becomes a resource, offering examples of endurance rather than subjects for extended reflection. Ideas about home remain present but are held at a distance to allow daily function to continue. Thoughts of family, familiar landscapes, or former work arise during pauses or at night, often prompted by a letter or by a phrase that's been remembered. These thoughts bring a different tone, one that's quieter and more inward, yet they usually get set aside when the next task makes its call. Holding both the present routine and the memory of home requires balance, and soldiers develop ways of shifting attention between them without losing steadiness. Concepts of honor exist but find expression through reliability more than through dramatic action. A man gains respect by keeping his place, by caring for his equipment, and by assisting others when need arises. Recognition from superiors might come in the form of small privileges or acknowledgement, but among peers it gets shown through trust. Being chosen to share a task or to stand in a certain position indicates confidence in one's steadiness. The natural world contributes to mindset through its constant presence. The sky, weather, and changing light mark the passage of time with more clarity than formal schedules ever could. Watching clouds gather or stars make their appearance becomes a quiet reference point. These observations don't lead to extended contemplation, but create a sense of continuity that exists beyond human movement. The same sky covers each campsite, linking different places into a single experience that's ongoing. Sleep itself shapes thought by establishing limits. Fatigue reduces the tendency toward speculation that extends too far. The body's need for rest guides the mind toward concerns that are simpler and more immediate. This narrowing doesn't get felt as loss, but as adaptation. Attention directed toward tasks in the present allows the soldier to function within whatever demands are placed upon him. Within this framework, meaning arises from participation in the routine that's shared. The world is understood as being structured by order, authority, and repetition, with uncertainty accepted as part of that structure. Personal control is found in domains that are small, keeping equipment ready, maintaining one's place in line, assisting a companion. Larger forces remain distant, acknowledged through faith, through habit, and through the acceptance that not all outcomes can be directed by individual will. This mindset supports continuity across campaigns that are long. As landscapes change and seasons turn, the inner orientation remains steady. Beliefs, Habits and expectations align with the rhythm of marching, halting, and resting. Through this alignment, the soldier moves within a mental environment that's as structured as the physical one, shaped by routine, by experience that's shared, and by the quiet acceptance of a life that gets defined by collective movement. Evening arrives without any clear boundary, since the end of work doesn't happen at a single moment, but unfolds through gradual reduction of movement. Once the last practical tasks have been completed and food has been consumed, the camp's activity begins to thin out. The sky darkens in stages, and the shapes of men and equipment lose their sharpness at the edges. What persists is the quiet continuation of small habitual motions that prepare the body for stillness. The ground, which bore the weight of the day's steps, now transforms into the surface of rest. Cloaks are spread by hands that have practiced the motion, corners held down by packs or stones to prevent them from shifting. Blankets receive a single shake, releasing dust that accumulated along the road. Each man arranges his space in a manner that has grown familiar, not through instruction, but through repetition. The spot that's been chosen is rarely perfectly level. A slight slope might remain, or a hidden root, or soil that's uneven, yet adjustment gets made through folding cloth or through shifting position. Fires burn at a lower level than before, their flames no longer being used for cooking but for light and for warmth. Wood that gets added at this stage is selected to last, not to produce bright flaring. Embers maintain a steady glow, casting red light that moves gently across faces and gear positioned nearby. Smoke climbs in thinner lines, carried sideways when air moves, then settling when it doesn't. The smell of wood that's been burned becomes part of the night air, blending with the scent of damp earth and wool. Voices carry on, though they grow fewer in number and softer in volume. Conversations become shorter and leave longer pauses between phrases. Words drift without any urgency, often concerning small matters from the day just past. What condition a road was in, how water tasted at a stream, what shape hills took on when seen in the distance. These remarks don't build toward extended discussion. They exist briefly, then fade away into silence. Listening becomes as common as speaking, with men sitting or lying near the fire, eyes lowered or fixed on the slow movement of embers. Hands remain occupied even as energy decreases. A strap might receive one more check, fingers running along its length to feel for places that have weakened. A shoe gets turned in the light to allow examination of its sole. Cloth is folded with care and positioned beneath the head or beside the pack. These gestures aren't driven by anxiety but by routine, ensuring that morning will begin with fewer obstacles. When tasks are finished, hands come to rest on knees or across the chest, fingers becoming still. The body's posture undergoes gradual change. Sitting upright gives way to leaning back on one arm, then to reclining completely. Movements are slow, measured to avoid stirring dust or disturbing a neighbor. Equipment stays close, placed within easy reach even during rest. The musket lies alongside the body or gets stacked nearby with others, its familiar shape visible in the dim light. This arrangement is so habitual that it requires little thought. Night sounds assume greater presence as human noise recedes. Wind moving through grass or leaves becomes audible. Insects produce a steady background hum during warm seasons. From a distance, the low murmur of other parts of the camp can still be heard, though it's indistinct. Occasionally, a footstep marks the passage of a man on duty, the sound brief and then gone. These small noises don't disturb the general quiet, but form part of its texture. Temperature undergoes a shift as the air cools. Warmth from the fire reaches only a short distance, and men adjust by drawing cloaks closer around their shoulders. The dampness that rises from the ground after sunset is felt through fabric. Bodies curl slightly inward, conserving heat. Breathing slows, settling into a steady rhythm that matches the stillness around it. Above, the sky presents a wide, dark surface. When clouds are absent, stars appear in fixed patterns, their light faint yet steady. Few men look upward for long. The sight is familiar and doesn't call for comment. It exists as a constant background, unchanged by the day's march. When clouds cover the sky, darkness feels closer, pressing down without visible depth. In either case, the night encloses the camp in a quiet boundary. Thoughts during this time move at a slower pace. The mind, no longer directed toward tasks that are immediate, drifts through small recollections, how the road felt underfoot, the weight of the pack, the sound of boots in formation. These impressions pass without strong emotion. They are observed in the same way as the fading light or the cooling air, simply part of the day's residue. Some men recall places far from the present camp, images of fields, houses, or paths that are familiar. These memories appear gently and recede just as gently, not held tightly enough to disturb rest. Guard rotations continue as part of the steady structure that persists even in stillness. A name is spoken quietly, and a man rises from his place. He adjusts his belt, takes up his musket, and walks into the darkness beyond where the fire's glow reaches. Another lies down where he had been sitting. This exchange happens without drawing general attention. Those not involved remain at rest, trusting the system that has functioned through many nights. As hours pass, fires shrink further, embers collapse inward, their light dimmer and more concentrated. The outlines of nearby forms soften until only the nearest shapes remain visible. Movement decreases to small adjustments, a shift of an arm, a turn of the head, the pulling of a cloak higher around the neck. Breathing from many bodies creates a low collective sound, steady and unbroken. The ground's firmness becomes familiar once more, as muscles release the effort of the day. Points of pressure that went unnoticed during conversation now register faintly, prompting small changes in position. These adjustments grow less frequent as sleep deepens. The body settles into the shape of the earth beneath it, accepting its unevenness. Time during the night doesn't divide clearly. There are no marked stages, only a gradual deepening of quiet. The camp, which during the day formed a complex pattern of motion and sound, now lies in a near-uniform stillness. The structures of rank and duty remain in place but are less visible, expressed only through the quiet presence of sentries and the ordered arrangement of groups at rest. In this state, life continues in its simplest form. Breath moves in and out. Heat from bodies gathers under blankets and cloaks. The air carries faint traces of smoke and grass. No new tasks arise, and no decisions are required. The sequence of marching, working, and maintaining has paused, not ended, awaiting the next call that will begin it again. Toward the later part of the night, cold may deepen briefly before dawn. Those half awake draw coverings closer without fully rising. The sky, still dark, begins a subtle shift that's not immediately visible but sensed as a thinning of night. Birds may call once or twice from nearby trees. These signs arrive softly, blending with the slow breathing and the fading warmth of embers. Rest at this hour is heavy and without clear thought. The body uses the remaining darkness to recover what it can. Muscles loosen further, hands unclench. The mind moves through indistinct impressions rather than formed ideas. The surrounding world feels distant, reduced to temperature, to weight, and to the faint sounds that continue without change. Eventually, light will return, and the cycle will begin again. But in these last quiet stretches, There is only stillness shared across the camp. The routines that shape the day lie dormant, yet present, like equipment set beside each sleeper. Nothing concludes and nothing resolves. The life of the campaign rests in suspension, held in the calm interval between one movement and the next, where breath, earth, and night air meet in a steady, unbroken quiet. As light begins to fade and activity in the camp grows less distinct, movement undergoes slowing without ever coming to a full stop. Small tasks carry on in forms that are quieter, voices drop to lower levels, and the structured pace that defined the day eases its way into a rhythm that's more gradual. Equipment comes to rest where it was placed, fires burn at reduced intensity, and the steady presence of many lives occupying the same temporary ground becomes what the evening is primarily about. Nothing reaches conclusion in a manner that's clear or dramatic. The routines simply soften, yielding to rest before they begin once more with whatever demands the next morning brings. In this manner, life on campaign carries itself forward, shaped not by isolated moments, but by the repeated, measured patterns that continue from one day into the next.